The evolution of information has begun. The way we search, we look for, we find information might have changed forever. Perplexity AI. So this was maybe a little too bit or a little too dramatic. However, the things are truly changing. My name is Vin Van Van. I am currently, this is me by the way, hello. I'm currently interning at Gen AIX, and I'm more towards the business, finance and strategy and partnerships side of the Gen AIX. My background is international business and finance. Therefore, I don't have a very, compared to, let's say, our AI consultants, I do not have background in computer science, machine learning or data science or artificial intelligence. Therefore, I thought in my video I would, instead of just walking you through some very complex technical stuff, I'll be explaining you things like a friend, like a human to human, and I'll just show you personally what I use, what kind of tools I use on a daily basis. So those tools are mostly, I'm quite a simple person, maybe I can just show you the camera instead of turning around all the time. Yes. I am recording on Meta Raven glasses, by the way. I have them quite recently and just testing them out now. And given that I am explaining it to you how I personally use it, I thought recording it from this could be interesting, because then you truly see what I do, right? By the way, we are in lovely New York City, in Manhattan, just a few steps from Broadway and Times Square. Alright, let's have a look at Perplexity. We are here. Let's open a new thread. You can just press here or Control Command or Command K or Control Command. Let's open ChatGPT on the same site. Alright, so it just turned off. Every 3 minutes I'll have to press it again because there is a limit. If Mr. Zuckerberg, you are watching this, please, we would really appreciate it being longer. So yes, this is how ChatGPT looks like. Of course, we are all very familiar with that. And Perplexity AI looks quite similar. After all, it has designed like a typical chatbot. So the difference between Perplexity and other chatbots is, let's say if we would have a scale from a perfect search engine, let's say a Google, searching things on Google being here, and the scale being here, creative writing and chatbots, tools like ChatGPT would maybe fall somewhere here, just like Gemini, just like Cloud, just like Grok, Meta AI or Meta AI, I believe they call it Llama. Now of course DeepSeek, they would all be somewhere around this area, more towards chatbots and creative writing, whereas Perplexity, that is more based on, let's say we could say here, because Perplexity is, let's say again, ChatGPT is rather a chatbot, a large language model which is more into creativity, your general tool with some, of course, now it has deep research and it can browse the internet, and if you pay for quite a bit of money you can get some other tools. However, again, it is still, the base is a chatbot essentially. Whereas with, I apologize, chatbot with search capabilities. Whereas Perplexity is rather a search engine with chatbot and AI capabilities. So that's the main difference. Therefore, with Perplexity, the information is usually much more reliable. It includes footnotes, sources. I would not say it's 100%. Of course, Google search and reading it ourselves is always the best case. However, there is so much information now, so many things, and if we have something we want to, which is not very important, and when we just want that information in, let's say, 30 seconds, and just move on to another thing, then instead of asking AI like ChatGPT, it's just more reliable, slightly more reliable to ask Perplexity. Let's say we would ask, I'll just walk you through, by the way. So libraries mean something like history. Then spaces, that's quite interesting. Just like in ChatGPT, we can do profiles. So essentially your customization of your ChatGPT, here you could do profiles as well. Let me open mine to see. Right, so I have a few commands here. Structure your writing, use simple language, incorporate real-life examples, maintain consistency, and so on. Shout out to Jeff Su. This is mostly from his frameworks, or from, we could say his frameworks. And yeah, so you can do that for here in GPT as well as profile in here. However, in spaces, let's say if you had separate ideas and separate chats, you know you'll be returning back often. For example, I will be I'm still an undergrad, and I would like to work in the top consulting firms, in management consulting positions soon, and I would be recruiting after, let's say, I graduate for a while. Therefore, I know all those questions I would be asking is part of this group, and I could create an own profile instead of a general profile here and general profile here. I could have different spaces. Let's say here I would say, every time I ask you something about in this space, or we together work in this space, please answer in highly structured frameworks used by top consulting firms like McKinsey, BCG, Bain. Maybe use SCQA or use Porter's 5 to explain things when you train with me for case interviews or case studies. Different space could be, for example, if you know you'll be traveling to India next week, or one day, or India. Okay, let's put China. If you'll be traveling to China and you know you'll be there, you can create a separate space, and there again do a different own separate profile. Let's say, imagine you are a highly experienced guide, tourist guide, and instead of typical common things one can find on internet to visit and are, let's say, tourist traps, you are more experienced and you are recommending more local things that are less known but still very good to visit. So those are spaces. You can also, of course, there are different modes just in GPT. However, here is one interesting thing. You can put a limit either, or just specify what kind of sources you want it to look for. So for example, this is social. That's quite interesting. If you're asking what kind of music is the best in the gym for focus, maybe the web search would not be the best. I mean, asking Google, yeah, something. If you ask GPT, maybe also very creative. And however, if you would want to hear from other people what they listen to, you could put the social, and now it will search mostly through forums and Reddits, and exactly it says those things. You can check sources, you see a lot of threads, and all the information has footnotes, which is very important. However, more importantly, if you want to search for more serious information, let's say, what do economists think of what caused or what were predecessors? Apologies, I'm still struggling with English, and I'm not sure what specifically that word is called, or causes, let's say. What were things leading to Ukraine and Russia conflict? Yeah, let's try that. Let's try just academic. And if you do the same with GPT, right? Let's see. Firstly, it's relatively slow. Secondly, you see that we just don't know much about the sources. Of course, we can say the same thing and then just say include the sources. Sources where you got the information from. Alright, it does say sources here, but it's very general and you just... Sometimes the sources there don't make sense and sometimes they don't. Whereas here you have truly footnotes. And it just works. Of course, it's not exactly as reading again the paper itself, but it is much more... I personally find it a little more reliable, or less unreliable to be precise. Yeah. So, essentially, I personally use ChatGPT very often on daily basis, asking about every single thing I could think of. However, since I've started using Perplexity, most of the more factual and more research, or whenever I wanted to have a little more reliable information, I now switch to Perplexity. So for creative writing, for emails, for refining and polishing text, mostly now GPT Cloud, I personally. And then all the rest of the information I actually stopped using GPT, or stopped. I still use GPT, but mostly I now rely on Perplexity. Or use Perplexity as a tool rather than the others, which is now currently my preparation. Interestingly enough, I believe, yeah, Aravind Shrivanas, co-founder and CEO of Perplexity, co-founder because there were 5 founders, beginning founders, I believe. So he actually is a founder. He went to Berkeley and did his PhD there, meaning he has background in research and academia. And it truly is different. Apparently there was a very good interview, there was a lot of valuable information there with Aravind and Lex Friedman, and there they talked and for example, when you research and your advisor, one of the first thing you get, or they'll tell you that every single thing in your paper, let's say if your paper is 50 pages, 80 pages, 150 pages, every single sentence in that paper has to be sourced or has to come from reliable factual information, from papers, from research, from peer-reviewed papers. It truly is. And everything else that does not come from that research or from your own research is simply an opinion. Therefore, this is how they started, and this is how they began the Perplexity, which really I found really interesting and gives me a bit more calmness knowing this, that this was the purpose and base for Perplexity. And Arvin has, funnily enough, now I'm seeing a lot of experience in AI. He worked in OpenAI, in DeepMind, Google, again OpenAI, and then co-founded Perplexity, as well as, of course, with having some funds, being an angel investor, investing in other people and helping out. Yeah, that was it. I know it was highly technical. We thought I'll just, or each of us would show you maybe how we use personally some of the AI tools. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope my yapping wasn't too boring, and wishing you a lovely day. Bye bye. Cheers.